Also, for anyone who has joined us, if you could just please remain on mute for the duration of the presentation. At the end, we'll give it an opportunity for everyone to ask questions. You can take yourself off mute and use the raise hand function to signal to me that you wanted to ask a question, or you can pop it into the Zoom chat box and I'll just read it off and answer your question as best as I can. Perfect. So I think we'll get going. Excellent. So Genome Alberta is part of the Canadian Genomic Enterprise, and this is represented by Genome Canada and 6 regional genome centers spread across the country. And the main goal of this enterprise approach is to respond to national issues through addressing provincial priorities. And so this is why you're hearing from Genome Alberta today in response to this Genome Canada funding opportunity. All the genome centers represent the interest of their jurisdiction, and we help our research community respond to funding opportunities that Genome Canada launches. I'm just hearing a lot of feedback there. If everyone could just pop themselves on mute, that would be greatly appreciated. Excellent. So this initiative was announced just this month, last week. It is intended to fund large-scale genomics initiatives with the overall goal of supporting climate change mitigation and adaptation, with a focus on agriculture and food systems. And so it's not a surprise to anyone that climate change will pose a significant risk to the sustainability and of our agricultural and food systems. And there is an overall national commitment to reduce emissions and carbon footprint in this systems while balancing and maintaining the productivity of our agricultural system and the international competitiveness. And so the intended goal of this opportunity is to create innovation through the power of genomics or other omics technologies to create an environmentally sustainable and economically viable ecosystem. The potential portfolio impacts of this initiative are fairly broad, and they're still being refined as we dive down into looking what particular opportunities will drive towards these impacts, be it net zero or reduced carbon footprint in the agricultural system, biological approaches to carbon sequestration, resilient food systems that can maintain productivity without increasing emissions, or other scalable bio-based solutions that can provide some benefit back to the industry while also contributing to Canada's goals of reducing a carbon footprint. The differences in the uniqueness of this initiative from Genome Canada's past programs is that it's going to be focused on a portfolio approach of these large-scale interdisciplinary projects, and each of these interdisciplinary projects will be connected through cross-cutting programs for knowledge mobilization and data coordination. And so truly, under the Climate Smart Agriculture and Food Systems Initiative, there will be 3 funding opportunities. And so the one that is available now is the Interdisciplinary Challenge Team Competition. This has a total funding envelope of $24 million. And launching later this summer will be the cross-cutting funding opportunities in Data Coordination Center and the Knowledge Mobilization. The idea is that the benefits of all the interdisciplinary challenge team projects will translate across the food production systems and supply chains and have a cascading and cumulative impact throughout a broader food system. So the interdisciplinary challenge team teams challenge, it should be interdisciplinary challenge teams at the top. Total funding from Genome Canada is $24 million. And roughly this will support 8 to 10 ICT projects that will be funded across the nation. Per project, we're looking at investments, a minimum of $1 million up to a max of $3 million from Genome Canada. And there will be a one-to-one co-funding required for up to a 4-year term. So some of the individuals in the line may see some familiarities and similarities with this structure to the past LSARPs, and it is similar in structure with the exception of the portfolio challenge approach. The key components of this challenge are solutions that are going to increase value without negatively impacting the environment, have demonstrable, tangible outputs and how they'll be translated into reducing emissions across the value chain, and obviously concrete deliverables that can be achieved within the scope of the project and translate into social and economic benefits within the shortest time frame possible following the conclusion of a project. Like past LSARPs and programs launched from Genome Canada, there will be a strong emphasis on addressing the genomics and society implications of genomics technology. And so looking at its ethical, environmental, economic, legal, and social aspects. This is the acronym GELS that you'll see pop up throughout the presentation and some of the funding documentation. And really, this is looking at identifying and addressing challenges to translating genomics technologies into the real world and into the hands of users that can have their benefits. And so looking at barriers to implementation of different technologies, how sustainability practices and policy practices could be informed. Consumer preferences is certainly an interesting aspect for agriculture and food production systems, regulatory considerations, and of course, the economic benefit that may arise from implementing, translating, commercializing a given technology. The general eligibility for this challenge is that it's responding to the program objectives. It does require genomics or some other omics approach, high throughput molecular biology approach to underpin the entire project narrative. That doesn't mean that it has to be exclusively genomics. This is an interdisciplinary challenge. There will be multifaceted research components and activities embedded within, but the requirement for a genomics technology must be there. As mentioned, it will require to integrate these genomics and society topics, or at least the major questions that you're looking to answer with respect to the project deliverables you're looking to achieve. It must have an appropriate scale, scope, and impact for this challenge. And as always, it must be internationally competitive using cutting-edge methodologies and technologies to address these challenges. And I put a balance there because we do have to balance the needs of our end users. And while emissions reductions is a clear priority of Canada as a whole and its governments, productivity is a major focus of our end users and our communities and companies. And so balancing productivity against emissions is going to be a key facet for the programs that are being put forward. The eligible research areas of this program are going to be quite diverse and probably more diverse than one would initially think. And so on the Genome Canada documentation available on our website, there is a number of suggested areas that would be eligible for research. This is not exhaustive and it's not exclusive. And so obviously, various applications to our agricultural sector through livestock, crops, or soil projects will be eligible. As well, there'll be focuses on any type of microbial communities that can address carbon reduction, decreases in resource utilization, fertilizers and pesticides, alternative food productions, including cultured meats and precision fermented foods. One that may not dawn on anyone right away, localized food production. So I'm using a genomics technology to increase local or rural food production that would reduce the need for emissions heavy transportation requirements. And of course, reduce spoilage and waste in order to reduce reduce overall food waste in our system. And so research areas are quite broad. We encourage anyone who has an idea right now to come forward to Genome Alberta, and we'd be happy to discuss these with you as we lead up to the registration deadline next month. As I mentioned, part of the uniqueness of this program is the portfolio considerations. And so while each project will be evaluated on its merit and scientific excellence, there will also be considerations about how these projects within a given portfolio may interact across each other, build on each other or the regional priorities, and really to have a cohesive national impact, and synergy across diverse topics, technologies, and teams. And so the application process is outlined on this slide. As I said, they will begin with a registration from each team. This is truthfully an eligibility check. Each team will provide a high-level description of the methods they're going to be using, the questions they're going to be answering in the genomics and society relevant areas that they'll be studying. And this will also allow Genome Canada to select for reviewers early on in the process. These registrations for the ICT will be posted to Genome Canada's website so that others across the country, either applying to the ICT program or applying to the other two funding opportunities under this initiative, can identify synergies, alignments, enhance collaborations, or potentially join forces where appropriate. And that is and once that's done, that is where the fun begins. And this is where Genome Alberta can come in to support you, where we provide our development support processes to help build your application and strengthen it. Later on this fall, there will be a deadline for your letter of intent. It would be akin to a pre-application in the old LSARP schematic. And so we're really looking at an outline of your research plan, your major research activities, the users you're going to engage with, your expected deliverables, and potential benefits. Following the letter of intent, for those that are invited forward, following Genome Canada's review, you'll move forward to a full application. Once again, Genome Alberta will come in and we will assist you with our development support processes in order to strengthen that full application and make it as competitive as possible for funding under Genome Canada's full application review. The full application will be very reminiscent of the old LSARPs and other Genome Canada programs, a complete technical proposal with associated supporting documentation, detailed budget, and information on the team's expertise to execute on activities. On this slide, I've just replaced a little bit of information to talk mostly about the information you guys are looking for, Genome Alberta's deadlines and Genome Canada's review process. And so the deadlines that are highlighted in this slide are Genome Alberta's deadlines to ensure that all the components of your different stages of the application are complete. And so, as I said, the registration is essentially an eligibility check, and these will be due in final form to Genome Alberta on June 30th. And so what I would strongly encourage all of the prospective applicants, whether you have a concrete idea or you're still brainstorming an idea for a project, is to reach out to us early and often over the next month and a half, and so that we can assist you in pulling together a logical and cohesive registration for this competition. Everyone who registers will move forward to the letter of intent stage, and this will have a two-stage review conducted by Genome Canada. This is why Genome Alberta is able to become involved, because we are not making any funding decisions. The letters of intent will undergo a College of Reviewers review from subject matter experts looking at the research quality and potential for benefits. And it'll also undergo a committee review looking for portfolio alignment on those portfolio considerations that I just showed you. And so letters of intent that have the best combination of research quality, potential for benefits, and synergy within a given portfolio will be invited to full application. The full application is due January 12th, 2023. I know that seems like a long way off, but considering the amount of work that goes into these applications, it's not that far off, and I'm sure the time will fly. The full application will also have a two-stage review in which a comprehensive project review on the technical merits and scientific excellence of the project will be conducted, as well as a virtual and/or face-to-face interview with the Genome Canada review panel. Following that, the highest ranking applications will be under consideration for funding, but only the most meritorious will be considered within the scope of a portfolio review to make sure that these projects fit together, and those recommendations will be championed forward to Genome Canada's Board of Directors for funding decisions. And so, as I said, very similar to past large-scale applied research programs from Genome Canada, slight differences in the review process and the components of how these portfolios of projects are going to be assembled. As mentioned, Genome Alberta provides development support across the development and across the program. This comes in numerous forms, and we do this to help our researchers prepare for putting forward a competitive and strong application. We will conduct strategic planning and whiteboarding sessions with prospective applicants on brainstorming and positioning and what partners and stakeholders perhaps they should reach out to. We will obviously do an internal review here at Genome Alberta, where we'll look at key program criteria and potential gaps that we are aware of that will need to be addressed. We also look outside of our organization to an external friendly review, where we recruit the expertise of subject matter experts, strategists, and consultants around the ecosystem, both inside and outside Canada, to comment on your research proposal, the benefits, your team, and its overall structure for competitiveness. If for selected candidates that do make it all the way to the full application stage, we will also run mock interviews that will be as similar and analogous to the Genome Canada interview in order to prepare the team for what kind of questions and answers they need to be given at that stage of the competition. So we work very closely with applicants, we work very closely with their institutions, the stakeholders in the ecosystem that would benefit from these projects or that would have a need to become involved. Our other genome centers across the country. And so we primarily represent the interest of our Alberta research community. These are interdisciplinary, multi-institutional applications oftentimes. And so we will be working with our other genome centers and other institutions across the country. and of course the researchers themselves, and making sure that they are well prepared for this funding opportunity. I think that's all I'll say for right now. And so I'm going to open the floor for questions, either in person or through the chat box. For more information, you can visit genomealberta.ca under our funding opportunity webpage, or you can send me an email at my email address that's presented there, and I'd be happy to set up a preliminary conversation with you. So, do we have any questions from the attendees on what to expect, what not to expect? Brandy, go ahead.
Thanks, Ryan. That was great. It's a great project, and we're hoping that we can get some University of Lethbridge researchers involved. So, if I understand correctly, we have a researcher, for example, who received funding through Alberta Innovates for a food waste project, and it's kind of a competition in and of itself. But if she isn't really connected with a larger group of other collaborators, is it possible then to introduce her to you, and then you learn about her expertise and the project that she's working on, and you would be able to kind of facilitate some introductions to kind of tie into with what she's working on?
That's exactly the role that we play, Brandy, and we'd be happy to do so. And so if you'd like to forward her contact information to me, or just ask her to reach out directly, I'd be happy to chat with her.
Perfect.
Filippo, you had your hand up next.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, I appreciate. I'm trying to see similarities and differences with the previous LSAT. So one thing is, I'm trying to understand the interdisciplinary challenge. Is not that you need absolutely an interdisciplinary team within your project, but just that Genome Canada will look for a complementary project from different teams. That's what I understand.
Yes, the unique aspect of this is the portfolio approach, where projects that are too far out, I would say, on their own in a silo, could be not the best fit for a given portfolio with respect to overall national impact. And so they will be looking for synergy across the portfolio or complementarity in order to ensure they have a portfolio that addresses the overall challenge.
So in a sense, will be preferable and advantageous to find other teams that are doing other projects, in order to be, have a better hope later on.
That certainly would be a wise approach, Filippo. And yes, it would, if there's complementarity built into the different teams that are moving forward and they can build and learn from each other, then that is what would be an intelligent investment into those projects with respect to a portfolio approach.
Perfect. I have other questions, but I'll let the other answer.
Sure. I'm just going to go to the chat for a second, then I'll come back to you, Jeff. Are AAFC researchers eligible as team members? Yes, all federal researchers are eligible to be co-applicants. They can lead projects so long as they hold an adjunct research position and have the ability to hold funds at a post-secondary institutions, because Genome Canada funding cannot flow to a federal research lab. And so there has to be the involvement of a post-secondary institution. But AAFC researchers bringing their own activities, co-funding, or expertise to a given project, there's no problem with that. One more question from the chat. Can grants be written as collaborative projects between industry and academic partners? That is strongly preferred. And so we would like to see projects that lean on the needs of the industry in order to drive solutions that will address those needs through academic partnerships. And so yes, the integration and involvement of end user and industry partners is, I would say, expected at this stage of these applied research programs. Jeff, over to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Good to see what's going on with this. The questions I had with the schedules for due dates, when are the decisions made for those different steps?
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I should have had them up.
Now you're digging for it.
No, so essentially the registration, there'll be no, I guess, response to the registration. Everyone submitting a registration will be expected to submit a letter of intent.
Right.
The letter of intent will be, applicants will be notified early November.
Okay.
And so the development of a full application leading into January it will be a little bit of a tight window, but that's
Yeah.
why we're here to assist with putting it together.
Okay. And then do you know after January 12th, when that's submitted, when the expected awards would be?
It would be, so the notification of decisions will be towards the end of March 2023, when Genome Canada's board gets together at their board meeting in March. And so it will probably be the following week after that board meeting at the end of March, where applicants will be notified of a successful or unsuccessful application.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Second question here in the chat. For novel ideas such as precision fermentation for food production or food products, would this be far too different and out of scope, or is the sector of novelty within the overall scope of Genome Canada that would fit the portfolio? That would certainly be within scope, and precision fermentation and value-added biomanufacturing is still I guess, opportunistic area for Canada. And so with the circular economics aspect and the reduced carbon footprint that can come from precision fermentation, that would absolutely fit within the eligibility parameters of this program. We'd love to hear from any applicants on that area. Question from Brian, when will the interviews take place for the full application? It will be probably mid-February. Mid-February is when those interviews will take place, and then there'll be follow-up reviews from Genome Canada's portfolio committee. Another question in the chat, would strategic planning where partners with similar projects are brought together happen after the registration? Yes, indeed, Dan, that is the intent. And so once the registrations are posted to Genome Canada's website, everyone across the country will roughly know what others are putting into this competition, or at least their anticipated approaches and projects. And so at that stage, we're going to look for complementarity. We're going to look for synergies, in which case we would recommend, not force anybody, but recommend strategic partnerships or collaborations where we think it would build additional value and strength to a given application. And so that is where we come in. That is what we will recommend to you. And as well, we'll probably also bring in some strategists and consultants into those strategic planning sessions to advise you on where the current trends are, both nationally and internationally, in some of these areas, in order to guide your development further. Any other questions? If I've missed your question in the chat, or Filippo, yeah, back to you.
I think John is trying to get his question, maybe.
Oh, sorry, John, I thought you were clapping for me. Go ahead, John.
Okay, sorry, maybe I don't have the right hand up.
That's okay.
And of course, I'd clap for you. What is considered an industry in kind match? Is this just straight cash, or is it?
Nope. And so
are there other forms?
Absolutely other forms. And so cash is always king. It's viewed as a positive commitment from any project partners, but in kind also works as a commitment, especially when the activities of the industry partner are well aligned with achieving the objectives of a given proposal. And so this can be their staff time, resources and consumables that they provide to the project. And there'll be, I believe the funding guidelines that Genome Canada has used for past LSARP competitions remain the same for this funding opportunity. So you could use the funding guidelines that are available on Genome Canada's website as your guide for what would be deemed eligible, but in kind most certainly would fit.
Good, thanks.
You're welcome. Filippo, back to you.
Yes, so stay on the co-funding, still. I think lots of people in this group probably are doing cluster funding at the moment with AFC. Will that be eligible as a co-funding?
Yes, it will. The only ineligible co-funding for these programs comes from Tri-Council. Unfortunately, NSERC, SHRCA would be ineligible. Heist, did you want to add to that?
No, thank you. Just have a sort of another comment on an earlier question.
Oh, okay. Well, then Heist, over to you. I think.
I have one more.
Oh, sorry, Filippo.
No problem. You didn't talk too much about international partnership. Is it because Genome Canada is not putting so much weight on that anymore, or just?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're not putting weight on it, because the entire point of this challenge is to be impactful as a nation in this, I guess, this cross-cutting area of climate action and food sustainability. And so the projects that are put forward have to have international competitiveness. And it may just be the narrative of the funding application being very Canadian focused, but there are lots of benefits, and it is encouraged to leverage the expertise and strengths from those international groups where appropriate.
Okay, so that's good. And yeah, no, I let Heis his comment. Go ahead, Heis, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, further to Ryan's question, and just to be clear, Filippo, international, I think it will make you much more competitive. I think also if you're looking at, again, Genome Canada will use international reviewers, subject experts, I mean, to review the applications. I think who are international reviewers are more likely to be connected to international initiatives. And so I think if you have international connections, strongly encouraged to incorporate them for the reasons that Ryan mentioned, because of course you need to be internationally competitive as well. But of course, they are also ideal sources of co-funding as well. I mean, international partners, European nations in particular, I mean, they're always looking as well to partner with other nations because they have a co-funding requirement as well. So it could be a very good marriage if you can connect internationally.
Okay, so just one, oh, sorry.
And so, yeah, so I forgot to introduce myself. So Gijs van Rooyen, and I'm with Genome Alberta as well. So on the final comment that I want to make on the question on whether grants can be written as collaborative projects between industry and academic partners, I think Ryan indicated, I think contact us early and often if you can. When you contact us, for instance, and you have an idea about a collaborative project between industry and academic partner, could indeed be a very good fit for this current funding opportunity, but it also could be a very good fit for another Genome Canada program that is ongoing, which is called the Genomics Applications Partnership Program. So I think when you contact us and you have some preliminary ideas around what you would like to do, we will advise you on what would be sort of the most appropriate sort of funding opportunity to take advantage of.
Thanks, Heis. Any other questions from the audience? You can either pop them into the chat or unmute yourself at this point. Filippo?
So I'm trying to understand better this novelty of these free pockets, you know, the 24, 4, and $2 million. Yeah. Because this is a novelty, you know, I guess somebody in Ottawa decided to make this more complicated for us. I'm trying to understand what is the strategy here, what they were expecting from that, and what we should do about it. I'm trying to...
Yeah, so we are still waiting on the exact details around the other two funding opportunities. And so we do know that they are intended to take the outputs, take the data from each of the ICT projects and make them more accessible where appropriate, at least knowing how to reach out to the different groups and understand better about their projects. And that's where the knowledge mobilization initiative comes in as well. I can't say much more at this point as we're still looking at draft documents, but they will be launching in the coming months, and it'll basically be the follow-on funding opportunity from these ICTs, and it'll build off of that.
Maybe if I could, maybe let me give it sort of another try as well. I think it's, Ryan is correct. I mean, a lot of details still need to be worked out, but I mean, just imagine that if you're going to be developing sort of a project, I mean, a dairy project where you're looking to reduce methane outputs. I mean, if the technologies that you develop, I mean, if you make sort of indications how this could directly apply to beef and potentially maybe to other livestock species across the country, then you basically show that basically you're not only, you basically focus your deliverables on dairy, but there is an opportunity to have those benefits extended to other sectors as well. And maybe that maybe even inform, I mean, changing in grazing strategies that individuals may apply. So I think the more you can show how the outputs of your project can connect it to maybe other potential sectors, maybe potentially other regions of the country, how the data that you're going to be generating is going to be in a form and a format that could be integrated with data sets that others are generating. So I think there's going to be a strong emphasis, I think, on basically developing sort of data sets that can be integrated into bigger databases that can basically have a broader impact. So I think it's more about it's sort of looking beyond, I guess, what the benefits. I mean, to looking at the deliverables of your own project to see how they not only impact the sector that you're interested in, but how they could inform potentially other sectors as well to fully maximize the overall impact into the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thijs. Well said. Other questions, comments? Anyone requiring any clarity? Okay, not seeing any hands popping up immediately or any additional comments in the chat. I'll just reiterate that I'll make this presentation available on our website for people to reflect back on, but strongly encourage anyone with ideas even percolating at the surface and looking to bounce a few concepts off of us to reach out, and we would be happy to chat with you and set up a preliminary discussion on how we could best advise you to put together a project at this stage. And we would like to see people reach out to us sooner rather than later, with registrations due in a month and a half. Brandy, another question from you?
Yeah, I might have missed this, but what is the term length of the funding and maximum of request?
So it's 4-year projects are the target. The maximum amount you can request from Genome Canada is $3 million. It has to be co-funded 1-to-1. And so another $3 million for co-funding. And so at minimum, with the largest ask to Genome Canada, you'd have a $6 million project. That doesn't mean you can't have more co-funding. And so the total budget could technically be larger, but $6 million would be, I guess, what would be required to get the maximum amount out of Genome Canada.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Just going to go to the chat for a second. Should the primary applicant be in Alberta? And so this will depend on where the lead applicant is located. Will only depend which genome center you interact with. And so if you're an Alberta-based researcher, then you would go through Genome Alberta. If it's a Saskatchewan-based researcher, they would go through Genome Prairie. And so we do have situations where a lead would be in one jurisdiction and a co-lead in another. And at that time, there would likely be a co-lead center that would be involved so that we can ensure we support the leads in their different jurisdictions and with the respective stakeholders that they would need to interact with for support. One more question from the chat, and then I'll go to Brian. Are there early career researchers or equity, diversity, inclusiveness requirements? And so I think that those are pretty much the same question. EDI is a component within this funding opportunity. And so you will need to detail to Genome Canada how you will address any challenges or issues with EDI, or how you will maintain a equitable and inclusive project throughout the duration of the project. And that would include either veteran researchers or early career researchers as part of your team. It's always good to have a mix. Brian, over to you.
Yeah, I think I probably know the answer to this already, Ryan, but I assume that the Genome Alberta RDAR funding is not eligible for match?
That would be eligible.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Yep. And so that money is not ours. And so that actually federal funding coming from the Canadian Agricultural Partnership Program. And even if it was RDAR money specifically, it would still be eligible as a co-funding match. And we had no funding decisions made in that program. It's all good.
Okay, thanks.
Filippo, do you have another question?
Yeah, so just based on the question from the chat. So what is going to be the provincial matching, or you don't know yet?
We don't know yet. Historically, we've targeted to secure support from the government of Alberta for up to 25% of Alberta-based research activities. That is probably the target we're still going to aim for, and we are in ongoing discussions in the background to try and secure those investments from either the government of Alberta directly or through other funders here in Alberta. And so that's something we'll work on, and we'll keep you posted depending on if and when those funds will become available. Yeah, happy to chat about that more later.
Yeah, so this will be only for those PIs that are going to come to you guys, not for a Genome Alberta as a collaborator in another genome center, I guess.
Yeah, well, so if it is led out of another genome center, we would still be happy to hear about a request to support the Alberta research activities. And so that's, I guess the mentality is there to keep the Alberta funds spent within Alberta and Alberta researchers to drive the research here. Heist, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, thank you. Regarding sort of the Alberta contribution, I mean, as some of you know, I mean, we recently entered into a partnership with the Results-Driven Agricultural Research, and I think we had a question on whether that would be eligible. And so Ryan indeed confirmed that it's eligible. What we will be doing, I mean, as a funder, I mean, we will continue to inform, I guess, some of the provincial funders as well of the opportunities that are being brought forward as part of this competition. And with the expectation that there will be interest from other Alberta funders to participate this as well. I think Ryan put in a slide where basically we need to balance sort of the, I guess, sort of having an impact, positive impact on, I guess, mitigation of greenhouse gases and productivity. I mean, we recognize that for producers, I mean, productivity is probably the first thing that they look at versus mitigating greenhouse gases. But if you can do both, then of course they're going to be very likely to be on board. And that would then also be, I think, a so those are sort of key criteria that results-driven agricultural research looks for is, I mean, what can it do for producers? I mean, how could it improve productivity and profitability? And so I think we're well connected, I think, to other provincial entities. And all I can say is that I think we have we have a good working relationship, and we have a good track record actually to secure additional public funding from Alberta sources to support Alberta-based research activities.
Very well said, Heis. Question from the chat from Michael Dick. Are the application forms, templates for registration online yet? No, not yet. The final registration form should be available very soon. And when it is posted to Genome Canada's website, I will also have it posted to our website. But keep your eyes peeled for that in the very near future for that final registration form. I think it's just going through its final review right now. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, not seeing anyone jumping out with any additional questions, I thank everybody for their time today, for joining me for a quick rundown of this competition. Again, please reach out if you have any ideas or projects you'd like to be considered, and we would be happy to run through some brainstorming sessions with you and get ready to submit a registration throughout this program. Looking forward to hearing from you, and thank everyone, and have yourselves a great day.